Welcome to Animasked. In today's video, we're diving into the fear of death, looking at it through the lens of art and keeping things a bit light. And to take us deeper into this, I'll hand it over. So, let's get started.
All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off, shall we? We're all gonna die. Yep, you, me, that squirrel trying to bury a nut in your lawn, your grandma, your favorite rock star, everyone. Big old dirt nap. The final curtain call. Poof. So today we're diving headfirst into this massive, often super avoided topic, the fear of death. And man, it's not just some, ooh, spooky ghosts fleeting thought. I've been thinking about this a lot, and it seems like it's this deep, almost primal force that has literally shaped how we think, how we live, the stories we tell ourselves, even whole civilizations. It's like the ultimate puppet master pulling strings we don't even see. We're gonna unpack why we're so utterly terrified of this natural, inevitable thing. We'll look at the wild mental gymnastics our brains do to try and escape it, the kind of crazy narratives we've built, and yeah, maybe, just maybe, figure out how to stop letting this fear hijack our actual, living. Sound good? Cool, let's get into it. So here's the thing I've been mulling over. At the very root of a ton of our hangups, our big philosophical ideas, our cultures, our religions, there's this fundamental refusal, the refusal of death. We just can't seem to stomach the idea that our little show is going to end. We're not going to be around forever. And what does our super smart, sometimes too smart, brain do? It starts mentalizing. That's what I call it. It basically starts building entire alternate realities, complex systems of thought, anything to offer an escape route from the sheer terror of just not being. Think about it. This isn't some new age woo-woo. Sigmund Freud, the OG of psychoanalysis, he pointed this out ages ago. He tagged the fear of death as one of our core human neuroses. In his book, Civilization and Its Discontents, yeah, catchy title, he talked about how civilization itself is partly a defense mechanism against the raw forces of nature. And guess what? Death is pretty high on nature's raw forces list. He even came up with this concept of thanatos, this innate drive towards, well, destruction and returning to an inorganic state. Kind of bleak, right? And that's duking it out with eros, the life drive, the instinct to live, create, connect. So the fear of death, in Freud's view, is our conscious brain freaking out about this inner thanatos and the idea of our precious I, our ego, just getting wiped off the map. Annihilation, man. Heavy stuff. Then you got Carl Jung, who started as Freud's protege, but then went off on his own fascinating tangent. He too was like, yep, death is a huge player in our psyche, but for Jung, it was a bit different. He had this idea of individuation, this lifelong journey of becoming your true whole self. And guess what? You can't get there. You can't become truly whole if you don't confront and integrate the fact that you're mortal. For Jung, death isn't just a biological stop sign, it's a powerful symbol of transformation, of cycles. The fear of death, from his angle, can be a massive roadblock to your personal growth. If you spend your life dodging the thought of death, you're basically dodging a crucial part of life itself. And you're definitely avoiding what he called your shadow, all those bits of yourself you'd rather not acknowledge. Jung believed that a life fully lived is one that accepts its own ending. And a lot of our modern anxieties, our neuroses, stem from this desperate flight from that reality. Isn't that wild? We're so busy trying not to die, we forget to properly live. So, faced with this terror, this I'm gonna end problem, what's one of the most powerful and widespread mental constructions humanity has come up with? Well, I reckon it's this. If death is just part of nature, this relentless cycle of birth, growth, decay, and then, becoming fertilizer,
Then to calm our fears, we've imagined something bigger, something outside that messy cycle. Enter the concept of a godfather figure, something transcendent, an entity that can, supposedly, beat nature at its own game, and most importantly, offer us a life beyond death. The promise of immortality, of your consciousness just floating on without this clunky body, that's a super potent painkiller for the anguish of annihilation. It's like cosmic insurance. But here's the catch, and this is where, in my mind, it gets really twisted. To elevate this transcendent being and its promise of eternal life, we had to kind of devalue everything that's actually tied to death. What's tied to death? Nature itself and our own physical bodies. Suddenly, nature, which is both the mother giving life and the force that brings death, becomes something inferior, something to be dominated, transcended, escaped from. And our bodies? The very vehicles of our earthly existence, but also the constant fleshy reminders of our mortality. They get framed as prisons, something to be belittled, depreciated, even mortified, like some extreme ascetic traditions suggest. Anything mortal, anything that decays, becomes a sign of imperfection in the eyes of a mind terrified by its own end. We basically started dissing the very planet and the very bodies that keep us alive, all because we're scared of them eventually not. This whole setup, this is just my take, creates a profound internal conflict. On one hand, our mentalized brain is busy constructing these reassuring narratives, these imaginary realities where death isn't really the end. It's just a doorway, a transition, a level up. But on the other hand, there's a deeper part of us, call it instinct, intuition, the soul, whatever word you like, that perceives the cyclical truth of existence. It knows, on some level, that we're part of this natural ebb and flow, and this fundamental disagreement between our wishful thinking and our deeper knowing, that's a source of constant underlying tension. It's like having an angel on one shoulder saying, "You live forever," and a biologist on the other tapping their watch. And how does this play out on a bigger, societal scale? We turn death into a massive taboo. It's the elephant in every room that no one wants to point at. In modern societies especially, death is often hidden away, medicalized, sanitized, and outsourced to professionals. We keep it far from daily life. We don't talk about it much, and when we do, it's often with awkward euphemisms or a palpable sense of discomfort. It's like if we don't name Voldemort, he can't get us. Okay, so we've established that this fear of death has led us to build some pretty elaborate mental and cultural bunkers. We've gotten really good at trying to exclude death from our mental picture of the world. But in doing so, I think we've alienated ourselves from a fundamental part of our own existence, from the naturalness of nature. So, what are we supposed to do with this? Just curl up in a ball of existential dread? Oh man, that's no fun. We gotta lean into the uncertainty. One of the best ways I've found to accept death is to accept that we simply don't know what happens next. And that's okay. It's a guess, a leap of faith, no matter what you believe or don't believe. Trying to solve death is like trying to nail Jell-O to a tree. You just can't. Then there's this idea of exposure, which sounds intense, but hear me out. It's about gently, and maybe even humorously, exposing ourselves to the thought of death. Not in a morbid, let's go hang out in a crypt way, but in a, let's take the scary monster mask off this thing way. Maybe it's writing down the word death over and over. Maybe it's watching a documentary about funeral practices in other cultures. Some are surprisingly upbeat. Maybe it's even mock planning your own far-off hypothetical funeral playlist. What bangers would you want? The point isn't to want to die, but to desensitize your brain to the panic button it usually hits. To teach it, hey, I can think this thought and the world doesn't end. And find the core fear. Is it really not existing? Or is it fear of pain? Fear of leaving loved ones? Fear of missing out? FOMO from beyond the grave? Once you pinpoint that, you can start to challenge that specific fear. And for crying out loud, use humor. If we can find the lighter side, even in something as heavy as death, it shrinks the monster. Make jokes. When I die, I want my ashes scattered at Disneyland, but I don't want to be cremated. That kind of thing. It diffuses the tension. So yeah, this fear of death, it's a big one. It's probably been with us since we first crawled out of the primordial soup and realized, hey, wait a minute, that rock just fell on Grok, and Grok ain't moving no more. It's driven us to create incredible art, philosophies, religions, and also a fair bit of denial and self-deception. We've tried to outsmart nature, to build a world that pretends death isn't part of the deal. But maybe, just maybe, by understanding why we're so scared, by seeing the mental hoops we jump through, we can start to untangle some of that fear. It's not about not dying. Spoiler alert, that's still on the cosmic itinerary for all of us. It's about not letting the fear of it paralyze us, not letting it stop us from actually living while we're here. It's about trying to see life and death not as enemies, but as two sides of the same coin, part of a much bigger, natural, and maybe even beautiful process. And if we can get even a little bit more okay with that, perhaps we can live a bit more fully, a bit more authentically, right here, right now, in this weird, wonderful, and temporary experience we call life.
So, what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's create a space for real understanding here and help each other. If you found value in this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content that truly shape our lives. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.